I might as well just do the intro. What's up, guys? Welcome to Thursday Tailgate special edition. You got two Canucks on the screen. We thought we'd give you guys a little treat. Hopefully you're, it's either in the washroom on your phone, setting lineups, trying to hide from the fam before the big Thanksgiving festival, or you're, got to sneak into the office and you're on your laptop and you get a chance to throw this on and listen to us. We're going to try to give you guys some goodness. If you're listening, smash the like, smash the subscribe. We've already got the chat going. Bring your questions. We're here to answer your questions. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. ML, my guest today, special guest, Kyle Senra, friend of the show. How are you, brother?
JD, doing great. Thank you for having me on. I guess I'd say that anyway, but especially today of all days for the it's just funny. Instead of saying American Thanksgiving, which I feel like we've kept doing, it's Thanksgiving Thursday, right? Like I feel like you say that, it applies to everyone. It's an alliteration. It's awesome because Canadian Thanksgiving is usually a Monday, right? So you say Thursday Thanksgiving, like we know it's what that means instantly. So yeah, we'll try and keep to that term today.
It's funny. I mean, we put together a show sheet for this. This is super casual, and it was just to kind of have stuff that we wanted to hit on. But you started talking about kind of the difference between the Canadian and the U.S. Thanksgiving, and that's definitely one I never even realized that. And then it's obvious, right? U.S. Thanksgiving is on a Thursday. That's you make sure every year as a Canadian you take that day off work so you can stay home, watch football, do your 1 hour podcast in the morning. And then ours is usually on a Monday, like you said. So interesting difference there. The other difference that I found, which one do you think came first, or did you do research on this knowing we were going to talk about it?
No idea. I'm gonna guess. See, I don't think Thanksgiving's really a French thing, right? I feel like that came in Canada once the English took over. So I guess that's kind of right around the time the Americans took over America from the English. So I'd say the American Thanksgiving came first, but maybe I'm wrong. Who knows?
You are definitely wrong, my friend. I'm talking. I'm going to try to get this on the screen. I'm talking 4 decades.
Okay,
we've got this one by 4 decades. Let me see if I can. You guys see that? If I go there, this is an article that our buddy Theo. Shout out to Theo, the OG Fantasy. Shout out to Dan Williamson too. Overhyped sleeper. He's dealing with COVID right now. He's double vaxxed the whole deal, but still caught it. He's getting a bit better. Last I heard, but hope he's getting well very soon. Friend of mine, and obviously you guys know him from the show.
For sure, yeah. Dan, if you're listening, just hope. It doesn't sound like it's super serious in terms of symptoms right now. Like nothing. Like I know in the fans community we've seen the worst of it this year. But hoping to get better soon, Dan, and everyone involved. Hope everyone in the family is okay as well.
Yeah, like I said, I think he's getting better. He had a couple of rough days. So yeah, hope he's getting better. But Theo sent me that article, so I started doing a bit of research, kind of the differences before we get into the football stuff. And the biggest difference, like you said, is the Monday, Thursday thing. They're similar, like their origins are similar. They're both, this is the thing I don't get. They're both celebrating harvest, yet we're celebrating in October. They're celebrating at end of November. I mean, what harvest is still around at end of November?
Really, southern United States, I guess, like, Alabama, I don't know, Mississippi, like anything in like the southern belt. Even as far as Kansas, like, is it still warm weather enough for them to, I don't know, that would be my guess.
And then I don't know why it's doing that. I think I know why. So if I go to this, do you just see the screen that I'm on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it actually was this one. So the funny,
because I mean, the illusion of the image on the image on the image on the image forever looks kind of cool too, though. But yeah, I don't think that's what we're going for.
Yeah, we're not going for that. That's later tonight.
We're not that cool at Canucks, are we?
So the two last ones that they have here, I just thought were really funny because it's like Thanksgiving is a little more low key in Canada. What isn't more low key in Canada than the US, right? I mean, you talk about waving the flag, anything done in the US, 4th of July versus Canada Day. I don't think you can compare, and I think Thanksgiving is probably the same. No,
I would imagine so. Yeah, it seems like. Have you ever gone to a Thanksgiving Day parade? I know I haven't. Like, I don't know anyone in Canada that puts enough effort to put a parade for that. Christmas parade, sure, but Thanksgiving parade, that's not really a thing. Whereas it seems like that's as big as like the Christmas Day parade in the States, from my understanding. So yeah, there you go. So
And then
there's no CFL football today, but there's NFL, so there's another one.
Exactly. Oh, there's one. That's a good one. And then this one was kind of funny too. Like, no huge post Thanksgiving shopping craze in Canada. And it's because you've got October is when we do ours, and then you've got a pretty good stretch there before Christmas. And we still dabble in the US Black Fridays, the Cyber Mondays. But we don't have our own kind of shopping. Everybody goes nuts and starts fighting at Walmart for a $100 TV.
Yeah, no, that's Christmas Day, or I guess December 23rd, I think, in Canada. That's the day where all the chaos is. So that's the dads and the husbands who they're doing last minute shopping, trying to get. I've been too busy with fantasy all year. I don't have time. You got to get your Christmas shopping done in August, and then that way you don't interfere with the fantasy season. All right, Kyle. For those who don't know, spit out anything. You're. Anyways, I'll let you. Tell the people where they can find your goodness. You're one of my favorite people on Twitter. You're always positive. You're always welcoming. You've got some seriously great information when it comes to fantasy. So guys, make sure you follow Kyle. Give people your deets, where they can find and what they can expect. Oh, thanks, JD. I love hearing that. You're a great follow too. You're so great too. So I appreciate that, hearing that from you, because I know you're quality content. Skin in the teeth, high stakes, like you're great for that. So to hear that from you, that's a great feeling. So thank you. I'm gonna say that word a lot today. So for anyone who would like to find me on Twitter at Senra Says, I also co-host the Full Press Fantasy Pod. You can follow that account at FPC_Fantasy Pod. I do a few things for Full Press coverage. There's the Full Press Packers Pod as well. I'm a Packers fan, as well as being a Hamilton Tiger Cats fan. Love those two football teams. So I don't have a Ticats podcast, but do have a Packers one for anyone interested in that. We do really in season 2 episodes a week, one to preview the games, one to recap the games, and I don't know, Packers are on bye next week, so we'll do something for that for sure. And then the fantasy pod every week, we do rankings debates. My co-host Brad and I, we just compare our half-point PPR rankings, like who are the biggest differences. That's usually what we focus on, and kind of going back and forth. Why did you rank this player this high? Why did you? And then it's I know you've talked about this before, I think on a lot of episodes this year, but just last episode, right? It's the teach someone to fish with the fantasy mojo, right? Like what are they what's available on that website, instead of just here's the information, here's the takeaway, giving the fish. You teach people to fish, right? So I think I try to do a little bit of that with fantasy content, and with the rankings debate, really getting behind why you make those decisions. I do a Sunday morning stream as well for Full Press coverage, and it's the start-sit decisions. And I do a spreadsheet for myself with all the leagues I have, just to kind of, what are the biggest decisions? I've got a few factors I look into, and kind of just, again, showing the process behind making the decision instead of just the straight decision. I feel like that's the best way I could contribute, is not even what I'm saying, but what are not the conclusions I reach, but what's the information that I'm gathering. I guess that's, and I know, like the other guest we were supposed to have today, Ty, I feel like he's another guy that does that so well. So to learn from you guys in that. And one thing I've created this year is called the Goal Line Guide. And I've been kind of tracking a lot of red zone usage, carries inside the 5 last couple of years, but I wanted to try and, instead of just like, write articles about which players have the most opportunities, I wanted to try and kind of predict touchdowns better. So what I do is I take I do this every week. So it's with the weekly matchup. So I take an offense. What's their touchdown rate, both running and passing inside the 5-yard line? And the reason I choose inside the 5-yard line is I did some research, and it through this season, it's really stuck forward. I don't have the numbers from this week, but I remember looking at it last week, and I think red zone plays, so plays inside the 20, it was about 17% of rushing plays in the red zone result in touchdowns. And then for passing plays, it was just over 20%, like 22%, something like that. But then if you look just inside the 5, instead of just inside the 20, those numbers go up to like close to 40 to 50%. And, in some cases tripling those odds. So, that's where we want to figure out where the teams are going to score those touchdowns and how. So I do separate it running and passing. And then what I do is this requires a bit of a lot of that information in terms of like team's own opportunities. I get that from 4for4, and that'll actually, I guess that's a question you have on the show sheet for later. But no, you can like I said, man, it's just it's the show sheet. We can go right off. But I was gonna kind of follow that up with exactly that. Give people. You're talking about teach how to fish, right? And that's something I started doing on the show for that reason. Is asking our guests. We have amazing guests, like you pointed out.
I want to pick their brain on how they get some of that info. And you talked about Ty. Ty is one of my favorite guys out there. That's why I wanted him on today with you. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it just with the time. It was hard. This is a hard time for anyone. So we appreciate you coming on today, Kyle, and doing this. But if you want to throw in like either a resource or something that you really enjoy, and if you have stuff you want to throw on the screen, share your screen with regards to the work you're doing, you're more than welcome.
Okay, yeah, maybe I'll show the goal line guide actually.
That'd be great.
Let me pull that up.
I think that's
for
cool.
this week.
And maybe on top of showing, maybe tell us, again, linking to a question that I have for later on, but let's just throw it out now. Maybe something that you've learned from doing that so far this season that, maybe changes your approach, or maybe you've confirmed something that you already knew. What's something that you've learned from doing this goal line work?
Well, again, it was exactly what I talked about earlier, was how much, what the odds are from scoring that close when you're inside the 5-yard line as opposed to just in the red zone or just like anywhere on the field, right? Like those numbers, like the further away you get from the end zone.
When you're doing something like that, does the importance of the goal line back, as we like to, those early down goal line backs, do they really stand out in something like this, or does pass catching kind of even that out with some of the guys that are getting volume at the goal line?
Well, and that's how you have to interpret it, because the info I'm looking at is strictly team. How efficient is this team at scoring? And then I also look at, and so again, the information in terms of the opportunities as well as the efficiency in terms of number of touchdowns for the offenses. I get that through, again, 4-for-4. They've got great red zone tools. They've got really all three: receiving, rushing, and passing. So you can it really does separate it into those three. So you can really check out which players are getting those opportunities. Okay. So I use that to get the team totals. And once you have the team totals, then I go back, okay, this is the team with the highest goal line grade. Which players on those teams are getting the red zone targets, or which ones are getting the carries inside the 5? So my goal line guide strictly shows the teams. And then what I do is every week I write an article and I'll pull out a few teams. Okay, this grade is really high. And then I'll actually talk about these are the players on this team that are getting the most red zone targets. So you look at the goal line data just for the team data. Now, part of the beauty of it, and this is the bit of the work at this, is what I also do is I look at defensive efficiency. So looking into a weekly matchup, which team are allowing touchdowns the most inside their own 5-yard line? Again, it's looking at the goal line plays. And so for that, what I have to do is actually go through the game logs. I usually use ESPN. I find they have good game logs for all their games. They break it down nicely by possession, and you can see the distance very easily. So I like using that. And what I'm doing is I'm tracking plays inside the 5, which teams are allowing them, and how many plays teams ran against them, and how many plays result in touchdowns. So you end up getting both percentages. And what I do is I cross-reference those percentages together, make an average, and then cross-reference it with the team's implied total every week, right? I mean, the odds makers, right? They know what they're talking about. They put all this work in, so don't reinvent the wheel in that sense.
Exactly.
Use those implied totals, because, okay, this team's really efficient at scoring touchdowns inside the 5, but they run very few plays, and they're not probably going to score many points. So how do I represent that in these goal line grades? And it's, again, using those implied totals and kind of referencing with that which teams are going to score more, and then use that. So here, I think... Here, I'll try and share my screen. I haven't really used this on a StreamYard yet, so
no problem. I might have to allow it to go on, but share it and then I'll throw it up. There it is.
Okay, so this is this. So I do this document every week. As you can see, I started week 4 just to give myself enough data. I used 3 weeks of data to kind of kickstart it. Okay. But then what I do every week is basically I'll arrange all the games by over under implied or the combined over under, and then I match the away teams, the home teams, and what I do is I guess I'll go through each column.
Oh.
How did I forget that word?
French. Let's just do this in French, man.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. We are Canadian.
Montre-moi ça tes colonnes.
So way teams, and I also indicate who's favored.
Sorry, dude, I have to throw this out right now for anyone listening. CeeDee Lamb was not able to pass the final step, which just breaks my heart because I got him on 500s today.
Yeah, okay, so we'll definitely have to run through my lineups and take him out of a couple spots. Luckily, what I was already doing anyway, I put in Malik Turner, Cedric Wilson in a couple spots. Oh, nice. So it just leave those guys in. I kind of was feeling already like they were probably going to get work with Cooper out. So now it's just they should get tons of targets.
Yeah, it sucks because the game was so much more exciting with Lamb in my opinion, but whatever.
I mean, the Raiders are struggling enough. It might really still be a close, exciting game in that sense. But yeah, like wanting that personal investment. I've got a lot more Dak in general. So it's funny because if you look at the Dallas goal line grade, they actually have the highest this week passing. But it's who's going to get those targets. And I did write about that in the article. But anyway, so for each team, I go through their implied total. Then I got the run. The number outside the brackets is the numbers of touchdowns they've scored. Again, this will be just strictly running from inside the 5. And then the in brackets is the percentage. And then this is the defense. So let's say here we have the Bucks offense. So their implied total 26.75. They've scored 6 rushing touchdowns inside the 5, which represents 40% of their plays. Now, this number here actually belongs to the opposite team, the defense they're playing. So the Colts have only allowed your Colts run defense, JT. I know you're a fan of the Colts. They've been really impressive this year. They only allowed touchdowns on 25% of the run plays inside the 5-yard line against them. 2 touchdowns only. If I look at that percentage, I mean, what the Patriots have allowed 14%. I mean, that's it. The Raiders have allowed 23%. That's actually crazy impressive. The Raiders are that good goal line defense, but like the Colts are right there near the top of the league. So kudos to them.
Who are the Colts playing this week again?
The Buccaneers.
Okay, that's right. Because I was thinking Ronald Jones.
So I'm not crazy about Fournette this week. You look at the goal line grade, 59.25. It's below the average. And you have it color coded to. Again, green is good, red bad. I think that's kind of a general conventional, regardless of side of the border. I think everyone kind of uses that. Although, the red for the Canadian flag is good. But yeah, so Bucks much better passing goal line grade than rushing. So that would lead me to favor Brady. Like I think I ranked Brady as my number 1 quarterback this week, and ranked really high on Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, even Gronk. I know he's coming back from injury, but I think I've got him as my tight end 6 this week. Just because, he was healthy enough to kind of go through the game and play. I expect him to get healthier relatively as each game goes on. And again, I think they'll really struggle to run the football against the Colts. They'll need to pass it. Likewise, the Colts will probably struggle. Again, JT can kind of get it done in bad matchups. So I wouldn't look at this 55.75 goal line grade and say, no, I'm benching JT. He's a must start every week, obviously, especially after last week's performance, but kind of feeling that anyway, that he was kind of an every week starter. So I'm not going to bench anyone based on a bad goal line grade. Christian McCaffrey, 64.75 rushing goal line grade. Not going to bench him for that. Right. But it is one thing I do when I'm making start sit decisions. I use this to kind of factor in,
close
just
to
one extra,
right. Or the guys farther down in the rankings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And sometimes what I might actually do is I'll use this a bit in my rankings when I'm making my rankings, kind of the, not so much the top end guys, but the, running back.
Yeah, because you look at Gibson a couple of weeks ago against Carolina. I remember I'm trying to make the decision, and it's don't complicate it. Just play your stud, and he got double touchdowns that day. So I think you're right there. For the top guys, play your studs, man. You got Mixon, you got one of those guys, McCaffrey, even they're healthy, you play them. But the guys in the mid range, I would say, going into the depth pieces that you're using for bye weeks and injuries, this is perfect. This is what you want to be looking at, because you're combining all the stuff that we talk about.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I feel not reinventing the wheel, using the implied totals as part of this calculation, which is kind of my way to incorporate, what the good offenses are. It helps boost their scores. But yeah, I think one thing I did, I guess I wasn't really done talking, was plugging all my stuff, but you could find my weekly goal line grade article on Full Press Coverage. So yeah, every week I'll be usually this week I released it Wednesday, I guess, with no more CFL DFS, because that was something I also did through the CFL season with Going for Two, which is the other place I work. I was about to plug, but I'll try and get these out on Wednesday. And it's not, this spreadsheet is kind of this is how I work from. I've got as well in the spreadsheet is the database for all the information, right? So I've got all the teams, and I'm constantly updating this. Okay, how many run plays are they allowing? This is the defensive one, but the same thing with the offensive one. How many plays are teams running inside the 5? How many touchdowns they're getting? What's the percentage? Then their pass plays, and then likewise with defense. And then every week I just kind of pull it off. Once it's updated, I just copy paste it onto whatever the new sheet is for the week, and then just kind of plug and play, and then calculate all these scores. So again, that you can. What you get on the Full Press Coverage article is a table with all the grades, just the grades though. Just it would be whatever the team is with just these 2 grades. rushing and passing, and then like all the teams. I think I do it alphabetically, not so much based on matchup. And then I also write a few paragraphs about certain teams to look out for. Okay, yeah, look at this team with this high score. These are the players you'd look to. Like one of the surprising teams I wrote about this week was the Seahawks. And I know Russell Wilson's been really disappointing, but this Washington defense it really hasn't been good, allowing a lot of production. Like they've allowed a touchdown on 3/4 of the passing plays against them inside the 5-yard line. I think there's only 4 teams in the NFL that have allowed that much. So like this could be a good bounce back week for the Seahawks. And one guy I really like is Gerald Everett this week because, again, looking at the 4-for-4 red zone data, he, I believe, is tied with Metcalf for targets inside the 10 on the team. Metcalf's the leader in total red zone targets, and I think Everett's second in that regard. So like when it gets close, like they're really not using Lockett that much. It's Metcalf and then kind of a lot of Everett. So Everett's a guy I'm plugging into my lineups in a couple spots this week, and that's just one thing I wrote about in the goal line guide article, which again you could find on full press coverage. I'm as also mentioned going for 2. So every Monday we do a live stream. Myself, Gladys, Dan the B League Says, and Dr. James Ferretti, who also has a book out. Really great book. It's called Injuries Suck, but your fantasy team doesn't have to. Really great insight on the first few chapters. It's a lot of just describing injuries because he's a doctor. He's a radiologist by trade. So he deals with a lot of like X-rays, MRIs, broken bones. So he knows a lot of that stuff really well. But then there's also some really impactful fantasy like takeaways. Like he's got this sort of mostly for draft season, not so much in season, but like, okay, when you want to discount a player for their injury, how much of a discount should it be? And he has a way to kind of calculate like replacement level for injuries and how you figure that out into production. So like, okay, this player is an injury risk, but I'll take them earlier than I won't discount them for injury if I think I can get another player later on that like outside the starting range that I can use to replace that player. So while I'm drafting them high and I'm going to miss them for a few weeks, I'm not losing that production in my lineup. So he's got this whole thing in a whole chapter in this book to some really impactful fantasy stuff. So getting to talk to Doc every Monday about the injuries that happen to players and the takeaways and what do we do kind of going to week, I think is really useful. And we also briefly preview the Monday night game, but a lot of the focus on those live streams on Monday are the injuries. And with going for 2, I do a weekly Yahoo DFS article because I know that's one site that isn't as represented as often, and I'm always looking for new things that doesn't exist yet. I think that's what led me to make the goal line guide in general, right? And no one's really doing anything like that. I know, like that, 4-for-4 has a lot of great offensive goal line stuff, but what I was really looking for is the defensive goal line stuff. What are teams allowing defensively? And again, there's no real resource for it, so I'm having to just kind of go through game logs and figure it out myself. But as for now, that's how I'm able to, I guess, contribute to the fantasy space, something original. I find
that's the way to do it, man. Because you want to do your own thing. You want to be unique. You want to stand out. And one way to do it is go where the rest of the crowd isn't. And that applies to a lot of things. And whether that's investing or fantasy, or even you're talking about Seattle. I mean, Seattle for me the last couple of weeks have been screaming buys in Dynasty. And even in redraft. I mean, if you can pick up Lockett at a discount, DKM or Russell at a discount. You talked about Everett. Dan Williamson and we own Everett on a big money league. He's someone we were really high on coming to Seattle. Just how they use their tight ends in that offense. Other than Lockett and DK, there's not much else there. So I like the call for Seattle to bounce back and that offense to bounce back. Guys, smash the like. Smash the like. Go follow Kyle. Check out all his goodness. He just gave you a bunch of stuff. The goal line, I mean, that data is like gold. So make sure you're following Kyle. Go check out his goodness. And let's get into the Thursday slate. I mean, we kind of started talking about, I threw in the CeeDee Lamb news just because I want people to have that information ASAP. But let's take it back a bit. I mean, I know it's not exciting. Chicago at Detroit, they're already talking about, Matt Nagy getting fired right after the game. I mean, like, what kind of feeling is that? Imagine being Matt Nagy and you're going in the game and everyone is talking about how you're going to get fired after that game. I mean, that's got to mess with your head, But anyways, I mean, this game, let me know, I guess what I'm looking for here and what I think can help is who are guys that you're looking at in this. I mean, is it just Swift and Demont? Is there anything beyond that, that Fantasyland can be excited for? I mean, look, again, we're Canadian. We get to watch football on a Thursday. So I ain't complaining about any game. But, I mean, let's get into the details.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think Swift, Montgomery, kind of obvious starts, and I guess especially like I was looking a bit at DFS slates for today, and like both seem like really great prices. Like you could build a lot of great lineups with those two, like not minding stacking the same two running backs in the same game, just because like especially Montgomery, you're getting such a value coming off the injury. But yeah, I'm fine playing both. I think I've got both ranked in my top 12 this week overall for half point PPR. So I clearly strongly believe in both. With Montgomery, it's just the matchup. Lions have been brutal defending running backs this year, allowing a lot of production. And so because of that, I just think Montgomery's getting all the work. I think he played like 90% of the snaps last week. He looks like he's going to get most of the touches against the Lions. He should score a lot. I know it's their week one starting quarterback. It's their backup quarterback though with Andy Dalton. But I mean, I guess you have enough confidence in Dalton that like that shouldn't change the game script. But if they're up, I expect to see a ton of Montgomery this week. And who knows? Maybe he'll save Matt Nagy's job. But outside of those two, I think. I still think Hawkinson's worth playing. And one of the things that's interesting is there's a few really good tight ends today playing. So that might be a decision where you might actually have to decide between two tight ends that are playing today. Like, are you playing Hawkinson over Dalton Schultz, over Dawson Knox? And I know both my co-host Brad and I, we actually did a special episode this week just about this Thursday slate of games. And we I think the conclusion we reached is we both prefer Hawkinson over Knox, but he likes Hawkinson more than Schultz. I prefer Schultz. Now, the news of CeeDee Lamb going out, I think that might change. Like, Brad was to say with that information, he might put Schultz ahead just again with the extra targets. But like we're really close on them all. I think all four of the tight ends playing today, we've got both of us had in our top 8. So like there's a lot of good tight end options. So I think Hawkinson still worthy of being played. Again, if you got, realistically, you might have Hawkinson and Schultz on the same team. Like you drafted Hawkinson, picked up Schultz in the season. So that might be one where if you had another elite tight end, I'd be willing to bench Hawkinson for that. But it's got to be like a Schultz, a Mark Andrews. And again, like, Pitts, Andrews, Waller, Kittle, probably not realistic to think you have Hawkinson and them on the same team. Tight end premiums or, your super tight end premiums. At that point, you might just be flexing them anyway. So that's probably a moot point. But Hawkinson over Schultz is probably a decision a lot of people might have to make today. And I think I'd lean Schultz, especially in spite of the CeeDee Lamb news. But I think I would have maybe done that even before. Just knowing, okay, he's not 100%. They might, if they get up big, they could take him out of the game. Or again, no Cooper, more targets that way anyway. So I really like Schultz this week. But again, I think Hawkinson's still worthy of being played. And Mooney should be playable. With Dalton, he did great last week. So I would expect to be able to play him as well.
Yeah, you got 1,600 targets last week. So, but I just want to stop with or just take a pause here with the Schultz. Because I had one of my OTCs was Pitts and Schultz, but you brought up TJ Hawk. And I mean, these guys are averaging the same amount of points on a weekly basis. But again, you look at these offenses, and especially with the injuries, I mean, and you look at where these guys were going ADP wise, like Schultz was going, in the 200s, whereas Pitts, we all know the hype was real. So that's an interesting one. Maybe let me know, like you talked about Schultz and Hawks, Pitts and Schultz rest of the season. Who do you prefer?
I think I would, rest of the season, I think I'd for sure say Pitts. This week is really close. I think I've got them separated by one spot in my ranking. So, like, you could make an argument for Schultz over Pitts this week. But, like, I was with you guys on, douse the flames a little bit on the rookie tight end hype. Like, I don't have Pitts on any of my teams. Like, that was not someone I was really investing in at all. The only league I had the 101 in a rookie draft, I went with Najee Harris. So, I mean, I guess I could have got Pitts at that point, but anywhere else in drafts.
You don't regret grabbing Harris, right? So
even over as well as Chase is doing, I think I'd still do that again and take the running back, honestly, as well as Harris has done. But yeah, so I think, rest of the season, I'd still go Pitts. I mean, he should be the alpha on that team. And I mean, he's not playing the Patriots every week, so he's not going to be able, like, that was one where I ranked Pitts pretty low in my rankings last week. And I still felt I didn't rank him low enough. Like, I think I had him at maybe tight end 10, tight end 11, and I really wanted to take him out of my top 12. I just didn't. But then, predictably, what do you have? 1 catch for 7 yards against the Patriots? Like that shouldn't have been that big of a surprise there. But I also don't expect other defenses to be able to do that to him either. So yeah, I feel confident with Pitts. He's shown enough as a rookie, I think.
Good point. So Roxley throwing in Renfro, Mooney, Moore, and Judy. I don't know if she or he wants us to pick one. Maybe we pick one for this week, give your top two going into this week. I'm trying to. So you got Renfro obviously playing
the Cowboys,
and then Mooney obviously in Detroit, and then I'm guessing that's Elijah Moore.
Well, I was going to say, is it DJ Moore? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe specify if you're listening.
Well, if it's Elijah against the Texans, honestly, that might be the pick regardless. Honestly, the way Elijah's been playing recently, I might say if it's Elijah Moore or DJ Moore, I might make that the number one pick anyway. I don't like Judy's matchup this week against the Chargers. That's a really tough secondary. And
Elijah Moore.
Yeah,
I think his starters are Godwin and Allen, so he just needs one.
Allen. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I think you nailed it. I think it's Elijah Moore. He's
it'd be between him and Mooney for me. Again, Dalton coming there. The Lions defense isn't great. I kind of like either of those options, but I think I'm looking at this and I see Jerry Jeudy as the clear fourth to me. That was the easy avoid to me. I don't know how you feel. I like Jeudy as a talent and I believe in him long term, but especially for this week against the Chargers.
That passing offense overall it's so undependable. You're basically putting these guys in when you need to. Even Sutton, I'm disappointed with Sutton. He's a guy who was buying low coming into the season, and he looked good, when Jeudy first got injured, and then that kind of tapered off, right? He just signed a big contract. Maybe they get him back involved. I love both receivers, love them. And for me, anytime values like that take a dip, I'm buying it. But to start these guys is a little iffy for me. It's a divisional game. I'm trying to see what the implied odds are.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily update this to yesterday, but from what I see, the Denver is at 23.25.
Yes.
Which is higher than the Jets. They're at 20.5. What else? We need the Raiders. Raiders are 24, and then the Bears are 22.75. So of these four teams, Denver actually is the second highest, and just behind the Raiders.
And
the Raiders. I looked at the wrong one. The Raiders are 21.75. So of these four teams, Denver actually has the highest implied total, unless it's been updated and I haven't updated my sheet properly.
So I'm horrible at remembering where I hear things. And I'm hoping this didn't come from who I think it did, but looking at who the receivers are playing against quarterback wise is something that is new to me this year that I never really added to my equation. And I love that. And I don't know if it's the pod dad. I like to call him the pod dad. That was talking about that, or
I'm not that comment. If I don't want it to be this guy. I was like, ooh, this seems controversial. But yeah.
No, look, Player Profiler, the site. I love the site, man. It's one of my favorite sites when I want to.
They've got some good people working there for sure.
Yeah, and we have Theo, and we've got Larky.
That's right. Yeah, his waiver article every week. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Waiver wire article. Larky is just friend of the show. One of my favorite dudes out there. I'm joking around, but I think it was on that show that I may have heard that, but I love that. It's something different that I never really considered in the equation. And if you do take that into consideration and you look at who these four guys are playing, playing against Herbert with Jeudy might be, something to consider.
But to that, I would also say I'd probably still rather than go Renfro, who's playing against Dak. In spite of the fact, okay, maybe you're not as rosy on Dak without CeeDee Lamb, without Amari Cooper, but yeah, I don't know. I'd have a hard time playing Jeudy.
And look, I love Renfro. He's one of those surprises that he's on the end of my benches, I've got my double back-to-back champion DPL team where he's like a depth piece, right? And it's nice or on those type of rosters where you're stacked and you've got him and he's just overperforming on a regular basis. My concern is just that offense as a whole. It just seems, look, man, taking hit after hit after hit. When you talk about Ruggs and, what's his name? Coach. Wow. Gruden. It's
we want to forget his name. That's fair.
We want to forget the name, but I'm just saying, psychologically for these players, it's got to eventually start affecting you. So that's where I worry. But Renfrew is dependable. He gets volume. He gets targeted in this offense. He's consistent. So I think if you're looking for a floor type of play, I love Renfrew. But if I'm going ceiling, I'm probably looking at either one of those other three guys. I mean,
Yeah.
Mooney, 16 targets. You can't deny that volume. And Robinson, from what I understand, hasn't even warmed up for this game.
Yeah,
so
it doesn't sound like he's playing. So
he's not playing at all. So we talked about Dalton coming in. We know the Red Rocket. He loves to sling the ball, and it's not like he's playing on a regular basis. So maybe he's going to try to capitalize on this situation on Turkey Day, and give Mooney, kind of that similar volume. So I mean, yeah, I think Elijah Moore and Mooney are the most recent pops out of these four. But sometimes, I don't know. I might throw Judy as a contender in there still.
All right, that's fair.
Well, but I'm curious. I'm curious to come back to this after the week, because this is definitely these guys are all pretty close when you look at what the expected outcome is coming into this weekend.
Mm-hmm. If I go with my goal line guide, the Bears are actually pretty high up in terms of their efficiency. They haven't thrown too many plays. They've thrown 3 passes inside the 5-yard line this year. 2 of them have been for touchdowns. I'm pretty sure one of them was Dalton. So like, it's their goal line grade for passing for the Bears is 85.25 this week, which is like the 6th highest. So it's definitely up there. So that would maybe lean towards Mooney. But yeah, I think my instinct was Elijah Moore, and I think I'll stick with the instinct there. He's been seeing the targets, he's been producing, and it's the Texans defense. It's similar to like the, not really much faith in that defense, just like the Lions defense. So I kind of like going after either of those 2 defenses more than anything.
All right. I'm going to put my final answer is going to be Mooney. I'm going to go with I'm going to go with the volume. I mean, you hope that Chicago does something, like Dalton coming in, maybe spark something. I don't know. I'm going to go Mooney. I can't deny targets. And even if he gets, 16, even if he gets 10, 11, anything in double digits as a receiver for me is good, especially against Detroit. Let's go back to a question from the chat. Ty or Pollard is an interesting one.
And I guess this will relate to the next question that we have up on screen too. But without CeeDee Lamb, is there a chance that Tony Pollard sees snaps as a slot wide receiver?
Interesting.
So
Nikki.
It's tough to run against the Bucs, but if any team can do it, it's the Colts. They've got the line for it. They definitely have the back for it. So that might be one where, normally like, okay, wide receivers playing the Bucs, you set them in because you know that they're going to have volume. They won't be able to run, so they're just going to see targets. But man, like, here's the thing. Even if it wasn't Tony Pollard, even just some random player, like, how do you start T.Y. Hilton right now? Like, I couldn't put him in a lineup right now, frankly.
No.
Like, I have to see it first. Yeah. So yeah, I think it'd be Pollard for sure over T.Y. Hilton.
The offense, right? It's to me, it's always the offense, and especially when you're looking at running back, I'm looking at who's going to score the most points in that offense. As much as they're missing their top 2 weapons in the passing game, you still think this offense is looking to get momentum going. And maybe today is a good day to do it. I know somebody, shout out to Jimmy in the True North crew. He was talking about Dak just not being great on Turkey Day, but you hope that history doesn't repeat itself today, and maybe we do get a couple exciting games out of these matchups today.
Well, I wonder if it's like, is Dak not good on Thursdays? Like, is he not like, is he someone that maybe needs the full week of preparation and isn't as sharp? That'd be an interesting study to kind of look at.
It's a shorter week. The times are messed up. It's a holiday. These guys are away from their families. Like, there's all these psychological things, you can start adding to the equation, but I think sometimes we get too caught up in that. And at the end of the day, I don't know. I could see Dallas putting up some points today, even without their guys.
Yeah, no, me too. I think because you talk about the psychological aspects, okay, short week of preparation, that also affects the defense. So we talked about how the Raiders are kind of a bit in disarray right now, and that includes on the defensive side. I think maybe more so than the offensive side.
Especially on the defensive side.
Now, back to that goal line guide I was talking about for this week, like the Raiders not allowing very many rushing touchdowns inside the 5. Does that mean more passing touchdowns? So that maybe Zeke can't punch them in from the goal line as easily. So maybe that's more Pollard catching. I don't know, just a tidbit there. Because the other question I was
also boost Schultz a bit.
Yeah, which again, I've got him ranked tight end 5 this week for a reason. So I think that he'll be a big beneficiary of that. But just that question that was on the screen, talk about Ty Johnson or Pollard. It seemed like it was not just start, but for the rest of the season, right? And sorry, I thought it said add. My mistake.
No, she's pointing out she has Sanders, and then I was
gonna say Pollard's a free agent. Just go pick him up for sure. Like that's I think for sure the add. But I think if it's starting again playing the Texans defense. Now this is one where you might be right, JD. If you're going to play Ty Johnson, do you want to play both Ty Johnson and Elijah Moore in the same lineup? I know it's the Texans defense, but that might be capping the ceiling there. So maybe the play, with all that information, I think I'd actually go with Mooney and Ty Johnson. Looking like Ty Johnson's going to be the lead guy.
I like that.
So I think so you nailed it with the Mooney call, hopefully.
No, I agree with that too, with regards to the running backs, because you always want to see where these guys rank in their, whether it's target share or where they're going to fit in this offense on that given day, depending on the weapons and where this offense is going. And I think that Ty has probably a higher chance of touches with my boy Carter out, which is kind of sad because he was starting to show life nicely for us patient drafters with the rookies. So before we go to Buffalo Saints, anything else with the first two games that we haven't talked about? Jacobs, you kind of have to play him, right? He's probably your RB2, I'm imagining, on your roster. Anything else to add with those first two before we go to Buffalo Saints?
Yeah, I guess like one guy we did touch a bit on Renfro too already. So to me, Carr is a streamer. I think if you've got elite quarterbacks, you don't really want to play him anyway. Like he's more of a backup. Like I've got a team where he's the backup to Herbert. Like I think I've started him 1 week and it was Herbert's bye week, but that's it, right? Like it's one of those where you just have him, hang on to him. But yeah, I think if you're streaming quarterbacks, he definitely is a good option against the Cowboys. I mean, the Raiders goal line grade passing is also pretty high up there. What was it? 92.75. It's actually the 4th highest of the week. So, which again, back to making Renfro a good play, it certainly helps Waller. I think I've got Waller as the number 1 tight end this week. So if those two are producing sorry, go ahead.
Let me just throw a couple of names at you here because you're talking about Carr. You want Carr or Cousins this week?
Cousins.
Carr or Mac Jones?
Carr.
Carr or Zach Wilson?
Carr,
Jimmy G?
Ooh. Probably Carr.
Carr, Matt Ryan?
Carr.
Even in Jacksonville, okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of done with Matt Ryan. I think if anything, they just run a lot, right? Like I think Pitts will do fine, but I don't know.
Let me ask you this one: Ryan or Tua?
Against the Panthers, I think I've got Tua higher in my rankings.
Okay, that's a selfish one because that's one I keep going back and forth.
Okay, yeah. So again, like to the point, I picked Carr most of those battles, right? So I think from a streaming perspective, he could be a good streamer this week if you don't have a better option. I would view Cousins, Stafford, that kind of tier. I have Tannehill ahead of Carr, but I can get why people wouldn't want to play Tannehill against the Patriots. But I just love Tannehill. I just can't quit him.
And super flex, if you have Tannehill, you probably have to start him. I would imagine at this point of the season. So
I think I've got Tannehill, Tyrod in a couple leagues where like I could put like that could be the QB2, right? Where I think I'm still leaning Tannehill in both instances, but that might be one where I split the difference, do Tannehill in one, Tyrod in the other. I'm not sure. I'll have to check back on that.
That's a tough. I think I lean Tannehill there, but sometimes I want the tried and true. I want the guys that have just shown it to me more. Buffalo Saints, just two interesting situations. Buffalo, Dan and I bought we Allen as and Brady as our QBs in this two big money league type of thing. And we made a big move for Diggs recently. Actually, we sent Pitts. We talked about it a couple shows ago, and got Diggs back. Just thinking this offense is going to turn it around. I mean, Allen to Diggs, a couple touchdowns last week. But what are your thoughts on this offense? Are you seeing opportunity here, or am I just a fool trying to buy the dip here when you're looking at the Bills?
Well, no, I'd agree with buying the dip. I think they've been what they've shown over the last year and a half has been a pretty consistently high performing offense. And what we've seen a lot this year too is all the good offenses are having dud games. So, I mean, it's the same thing with the Cowboys, right? Are we scared of the Cowboys after a dud game followed by a monster game, then another dud game? Does that mean monster game here? So we should definitely play them. But no, I think anyone who's kind of selling low on the Bills pieces like Diggs probably Diggs, certainly his dynasty price, I think, has gone down than what it was in the offseason, where he might have been valued as a top 5 dynasty wide receiver for the first time in a while after such a great year last year. And I think that's kind of gone away, and he might not even be viewed as a top 10 dynasty wide receiver in certain leagues. So yeah, I think he'd be a guy definitely to go buy, and buy the dip Diggs might be the one guy most indicative of that. It's always tough with quarterbacks, right? I think especially like from a super flex perspective, whoever has Josh Allen probably isn't giving up Josh Allen unless they get another top 6 quarterback back. I know Scott Connor talks about that a lot. Once you're in that club, you're not trading out of that. It doesn't matter. Like I'll give you 5 firsts for Josh Allen. Honestly, I'll keep Josh Allen because if I'm a contender, I need the quarterback. How do I know where those firsts are? The price of these quarterbacks, if they are worth 5, can I get those 5 firsts and buy Herbert for 4 firsts and keep 1? Maybe but not every manager is also willing to do that. So it's one of those where if I've got an elite quarterback like Allen, the only way I'm trading him is to get another top 6 in the deal. Pivot down from Allen to Dak and get a third back or something like that. Those are types of deals I'm interested if I'm selling Allen. Obviously, I'd buy him for anything less than that. Like if I can go from a non-elite quarterback, like if that gap's bridged, like I view it as a clear top 6 dynasty wise. So if I guess who's 7, like let's say can I go from Burrow and a second to get Josh Allen? I think that's pretty great. Like that may not have been. I don't think you could have done that in the offseason. You probably would. Burrow in a first might not even got that done. But now maybe Burrow in a second still doesn't get it done. But Burrow in a late first, I think I'd be willing to do that to get Josh Allen and solidify those top 6. So that'd be kind of an interesting one. Russell Wilson in a first, that might not get done actually with how bad Wilson's playing. But anyway, so yeah. I think in theory, Josh Allen would be a great buy. It's just I don't know that anyone's selling low on him. Is kind of the thing I'm trying to get at.
No, but I think the point that you're making is valid. And anytime you can switch a guy for another guy you consider of similar value and then get something on top, that's exactly the pivot that we're talking about. And I think what you said is important. You can't go from Herbert to Garoppolo. Like then you just left the club. Like you're out of the club. You're out of the clubhouse. You're out of the those top type of guys, and now to work your way back, you gotta either hope you get lucky in a rookie draft, but to trade in Superflex for those top guys is very difficult. So I like what you said there.
Because you look at that top 6. I mean, you've got Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray, but even then, like Jackson came out in a QB class where he wasn't really viewed as the QB1 overall. Like very consensus, like you think about Kyler Murray, right? Like he was like any Superflex draft, he was the 101 automatically. And even in single quarterback rookie drafts, I'm sure Kyler Murray was probably a top half of the first round that year, right? So but outside of that, like Dak was a really late guy. Josh Allen in some Superflex leagues, I saw him fall to. There's one that's a 10-team league, and I didn't have any picks in this because I wouldn't have let this happen. But I remember that year he fell to the 4th round or 402 in a 10-team Superflex league, which was just everyone was just hating on him, and then eventually someone said, "No, enough's enough." But like those guys have been there late, so seems like there's always one. Like even Daniel Jones is kind of probably outproduced where people were drafting him from a Superflex perspective. But again, to get Murray, Lamar Jackson, even Mahomes, you probably had to spend a first-round rookie pick to get them. So it's not a guarantee to get those guys late either.
Exactly. All right, let's go to Trey S. Another question. Back to similar. I mean, we talked about some of these guys. Do any of these other guys added to the equation, Gallup or Smith? I mean, I think it's valid. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, no Lamb. I feel like I really want to play Gallup. Like I know he had coming off the injury, hasn't really had a really great game yet this year, but you just feel like that's he's just going to see tons of targets this week. So yeah, knowing they can play 3 of these players. So yeah, I think I'd want to play Mooney and Gallup for sure. Get the 2 players today, and then I'm leaning Smith over Judy, but that's one where you don't have to decide today either. You can see how things go, and you can make that decision Saturday night, Sunday morning.
See what you mean.
Whereas if you decide to bench Gallup or Mooney now, you're making that decision now with I don't know how much more information we're going to gain from Denver or Philly this week, but I feel like I don't know how you feel, but I know I've talked about this on my Going for 2 show. Playing Thursday night players or not, and one of my co-hosts was kind of they don't like doing it. Like okay, again the studs you play them no matter what, but the players in the middle, do you play them on Thursday or not? If you're not sure, I actually tend to default to playing them because. And this was something I kind of came up with last year as a workaround COVID.
Is it just because you have more information
Yeah, I think it's exactly that, right? With last year, with like we weren't sure like how many players are going to test positive, like how like the especially early on, the sheer chaos. We didn't really know how a full season. We didn't know if we were going to get through a full season last year. Like crazy to think about that. So one of those things was, okay, if I know these guys are playing Thursday, I'm just putting them in, and I just started doing that a lot last year. And I find, I don't know, myself psychologically, if I play a player Thursday and don't do great, I feel like, okay, I can make up for that the rest of the week. But man, I hate nothing more than this guy went off for 30 points on a Thursday, and you got to look at that on your bench the entire time. I don't mind. I know some people have said the opposite. Like they don't want to see the 1.2 fantasy points in your starting lineup all weekend. I don't mind. Okay, just extra motivation to make sure everyone else I get right. But man, when you know that guy goes off for 30, it's like, how many guys in my starting lineup are going to be able to do that, and they're not there. So I tend to default to play Thursday guys more, and that might lead me to do this. Just, okay, I know Gallup and Mooney are playing tonight. I know they're top receivers. In Dallas's case, top 2 wide receivers are out. Those guys should get boosts in targets. Give me those 2 right now, and then I'll decide on Smith Judy once I see how the Thursday games go. But again, I think I'd bench Judy. Back to like what we talked about the last question. I think it's just that offense, the way Smith has kind of really become the alpha for the Eagles, and Jalen Hurts has been playing better. They have the Giants too, so I'm not really as worried about that matchup as I am, say, for the Broncos against the Chargers. So Trey, my answer would be Jerry Jeudy, be the bench.
I agree. I like Gallup and Smith this week. I mean, Philly just moving forward and seeing Hurts. And I mean, again, Philly, similar to like Baltimore in the offseason, Philly in the early season were big buys, especially Hurts, like in Superflex. You hear people talking about how, oh, he's not the future. It's like, give the guy a break. Like, he's just like, he didn't start all last season. He's still young. He's, it's not like they're loaded. They've got weapons, but you got to give these guys time, man, to flourish, in the environment that they're in. And I think we're seeing that in Philly, and, everybody's talking about the schedule and how great the schedule is. Again, keeping it simple. I think it's hard to sit Smith. And like you said, with Gallup, just the opportunity there with the injuries is a no-brainer. All right, guys, we're at what, quarter 2? So we got 13 minutes. Guys, smash the like, smash the subscribe, drop the questions in the chat. Keep them coming. We'll answer as much as we can. We'll do a bit more kind of rapid fire through some of the stuff, because we barely made it through the first quarter of this show sheet.
Great conversation.
So I'll just throw stuff at you randomly. Like, looking rest of season, is there someone or an offense or something that stands out? I know we talk about Philly's schedule. Anything that you think people are not really paying attention to where you're seeing opportunity?
Well, I think I hinted on earlier with the Seahawks, right? Like, that's one where by the dip, right? Like, hey, Russell Wilson's, it's going to get probably better every week, where he's going to get a little bit healthier. Guys like Metcalf, he's probably not really that attainable anyway, even with his dip. Like, he's still been at least somewhat productive. But
if you're going to try, now's the time.
Yeah, now is the time to do it. Lockett might be a good buy low. But again, one guy I hinted at earlier, Gerald Everett. Like, and I know you guys really like him here at the GOAT District, but he's someone that might enter in to be a weekly top 12 tight end, starting to get more targets, kind of getting more comfortable with the offense. And as Russ gets healthier, again, I've got Everett, I think, going in at least 2 leagues this weekend. Maybe, obviously leagues where I don't have elite tight ends and went to the streaming routes instead. And, he's the guy I've kind of landed on for this week. And it's I think, streamer plus. I think you got a great matchup against Washington this week, but he's someone you can maybe use even in not so great matchups if he continues to get these targets. I mean, if he's going to be the clear number 3 target in this offense, eventually that'll be great when Wilson is healthier. So yeah, that would be one offense. Really, the NFC West, because the Seahawks as well. Sorry, not the Seahawks, the 49ers. The 49ers, just because at this point it's looking like Garoppolo is probably going to start most of the season. So those pass catchers, maybe we were worried about, okay, when Lance starts, how's that going to affect them? So, if there's any little bit of, I guess there's no real dip on Deebo Samuel, but like Kittle, especially in Dynasty, I think is a good buy low in general. He's not, I mean, just what I'm thinking, maybe something like, maybe not even a year ago, right? Maybe 11 months ago, maybe a little more, maybe about 12 months ago, he was viewed as the tight end 1 in Dynasty. And then Kelsey would Kittle finished last year injured, and Kelsey just went off for his best season ever, and it really bridged the gap. But before that, I remember doing some startups. Yeah, and Waller too as well. Him kind of becoming, okay, it wasn't just a 1-year thing, but man, like I remember some 2019, or sorry, what year are we? Yeah, that's confusing. I remember some 2020 startups where Kittle was a first round pick and he was the first tight end off the board. Yep. So, because Kelsey's gotten a year older, he's a year closer to 40 now, above that 30 cliff. Like Kittle's still fairly young, like he's younger than Waller. And I know Waller probably also has some long-term value, but I feel like the dynasty overreaction to Kittle makes him a really good dynasty buy. I mean, some people might view him as like the tight end 4 in dynasty. Frankly, maybe I'm stubborn. I still have him as the tight end 1. Because as much as we've seen Pitts, okay, he's going to command targets. He's still not like athletic freak, maybe the best prospect ever. But what Kittle does with the ball in his hands after the catch, I don't even think Pitts is capable of that. Like it's this true athletic freak. Like he can be the tight end 1 overall. Like I remember that 2019 season, which led Kittle to be in the tight end 1. He and Kelsey were equal in points per game. I think it was half point PPR points per game. Like they were like almost to the decimal point, exactly the same. And I think like the targets were much skewed more towards Kelsey. So like Kittle's kind of showing he can be the tight end 1 on fewer targets than these other guys. Whereas even Kelsey, and we're seeing with Andrews, once getting the volume, he's great. Waller, he needs the volume. I think Pitts is like that too, where he needs the volume. Kittle's like the one tight end that really can get it done without the volume. That's why I like AJ Brown so much in Dynasty. Like he's a wide receiver that he could smash for a top 5 week. It'd be 20th in targets because of the yards after the catch ability. So I still believe in that in Kittle. So a redraft buy might be the Seahawks in general. Gerald Everett, you don't even have to trade for him. You probably pick him up everywhere. But from a Dynasty buy, I'd say Kittle. I guess you asked the rest of the question. So this wasn't Dynasty. I just threw this into Dynasty randomly because I wanted to.
No, it's fine. But I mean, the common thread that we're seeing here is anytime these top guys dip, you're probably not going to get hurt by buying, because even if they don't turn it around, or they still have that value, there's still George Kittle in a tight end premium. There's still DK Metcalf, one of the top 5 prospect wide receivers, in the game right now. So you're kind of protected with the youth, and even Kittle in that position is considered still young. If you look at, and he's still a huge part of that offense. We saw the difference when he was there and he wasn't with Jimmy G. The whole Jimmy G Trey Lance thing for me was kind of like the quarterback version of Pitts. Like I couldn't buy into the Trey Lance situation, because similar to like Debo, like they like Garoppolo in that offense. Like he likes Garoppolo in his offense, running his offense. Like, he's not Rodgers but he runs that offense well. And he took them to the Super Bowl. That meant something, and he's not just going to throw in the rookie until I think it's Jimmy G's job to lose. And I think that's what has been proven this year.
They might, and I know one thing is, it's once they got eliminated from the playoffs, right? Which seemed closer, than they've kind of a bit of a win streak, right? So that I think for sure Garoppolo's there until they're officially eliminated. But that might be one where they just give them the start the rest of the year, saying, Lance, you're going to start fresh next year. Like you get the job for week 1 next year, but until then, we've put you in the game. You've gotten 1 start, I think, this year. That's enough to at least build off that. But we're going to keep Garoppolo the job the rest of the year, which would help the pass catchers. Now, you haven't mentioned it yet on this episode, so I'll mention it for you. Your most rostered wide receiver is Debo, right?
Oh, yeah. And Dynasty.
Is his skill set just as okay? He's not just catching passes. They'll give him carries. They'll find ways to get him involved. You're not as reliant as Ayuk could have been on the quarterback hitting on the deep ball. So were you less worried with Lance with Debo? Is that why you invested so heavily in him?
No. I had Debo from a couple of years ago, but I bought more this offseason. Just if you, again, it sounds stupid, but you look at the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, Debo was the whole offense. I remember I was at Casino Niagara, man, playing poker, watching that game. And it was like literally, I'd love to see the target share for Debo in that game. I don't have it off the top of my head, but he was literally the offense. And this is the Super Bowl, right? And it's the same coach. It's the same guy running the offense in Shanahan. Jimmy G, for me, didn't lose his job. I know people were poo-pooing, but he's coming off a major injury last year. Like he hadn't played in so long. Again, give the guy a chance to come back, kind of get back to shape in that offense. And he's shown that they were winning games, like you said, even without any of their weapons. And the injuries that happened with Kittle and maybe Ayuk kind of, taking a step back from the pop that we thought we'd get, really just made Debo even better than I expected. Didn't expect him to be a top 10 receiver in the league. But I did expect him to continue to be that player that they're going to keep moving around. And I mentioned this a few shows ago. Abib, double champ of on the Football Guys, $750,000 winner. He talks about anytime he hears a coach talk about moving around a certain player to be more involved in the offense, those are the guys he wants, right? And this relates here with Debo. They're not spreading the ball. They're throwing it to Debo. They're gonna now. Ayuk has kind of shown that he's got a role there, but after Kittle and those two, that's the offense.
By the way, I did just calculate it real quick for you. So Debo in that Super Bowl had a 29% target share.
No, see.
Kittle had 23%. And then, I think the next would have been Sanders at 16%. So, yeah.
There you go. Let's go the other way really quick. Again, we might go a bit over, but we'll get off in time to do those last minute touches in our lineups. Go the other way. Anyone you're avoiding or that you're selling or that maybe you hear people are high on rest of season, but you're thinking maybe not.
This is rest of season and also dynasty. Again, I'll throw this in there to kind of, I think that this player applies to both. It's DJ Moore, and specifically with the Panthers. Yes, Cam Newton's back, but how sustainable is that play going to be through the rest of the season? I guess like with Newton last year, we saw, his play really tailed down the shoulder. It seems like it's never been fully healthy the last couple of years. I guess the advantage with Newton is he hasn't played a full half of the season, right? So now he's only got this end of the season to do, so maybe it doesn't tail off. But I just get this fear that we saw DJ Moore score the touchdown with Newton last week. Is that going to be something that they're able to do every week? I'm not sure. I still feel McCaffrey's the alpha there, and like DJ Moore dynasty wise, I think is still viewed as probably a top 10 dynasty wide receiver. I think
at least top 15, at least top 15.
And I mean, where is he in points per game this year? He might be close to that, actually. He might be in the top 20, but I don't think he's getting...
He's got 16 points. Oh, no, sorry, that's projected. I'm looking at the wrong... Great radio.
Great radio. Noise.
No, but it's funny because I actually looked that up. It's 14.8. 14.8.
Okay. I'm looking right now. Half point PPR, Fantasy Pros has him as the wide receiver 17.
Okay.
But I'm looking at points per game would be lower. Like that's just the flat amount. Points per game looks like I think he's still in the top. Actually, that's DK, not DJ. Yeah, I think he's outside the top 20. So I don't think he's quite producing to where his value is. And I'd really he's kind of been that way every year. Like his best finishes, I think, are like low end QB wide receiver ones. Like I don't think he's ever been a top 5 wide receiver, top 6 wide receiver at the end of any season. But I think that draft hype, I mean, everyone remembers that draft class.
Right now he's receiver 22 for this year.
Okay.
Point per game.
And again, I think in Dynasty, he'll definitely be valued much higher than that. So that'd be kind of one where the production isn't quite matching the value. So I'd be looking to sell. But again, even in redraft, maybe sell off the big touchdown performance that he got with Newton last week, thinking that might not be the case every week. Their goal line grade this week for passing is pretty bad, which I think is the second lowest in the league this week, behind only the 49ers. Because the 49ers, the thing is with them is they've only thrown 1 touchdown inside the 5-yard line this year. Like for a while it was 0. So like their goal line grade passing was always pretty bad just because of that. But it still continues to be bad, I guess. But yeah, DJ Moore is a guy I think I would sell high on in both redraft and dynasty formats at this point.
Guys, you guys see my hat, my comfortable, beautiful hat. Viridian Global. Viridian Global. Guys, support the show. Get your GOAT gear. Show them who's GOAT. I mean, it's winter, right? Up here anyways. You got toques, tons of colors, hoodies that are super comfortable. I literally live in these t-shirts and these hoodies around the house. You guys won 2020. We still have our championship shirt up there, long sleeve for the season. Guys, show support for the site. Show support for all your favorite podcasts. There's a whole collection, guys, on here, even your favorite players, ViridianGlobal.com. And they're generous enough to offer for our listeners, exclusive for today, free shipping. So just another reason to go check it out, guys. Will and Mark put together an amazing site and some great merch. So whether you're supporting us or some of our colleagues out there, just make sure you visit, and today's a good reason. going for two as well, with a sweet hat and a sweet shirt. I'm wearing my Smashing Pumpkins because it's like the closest thing I could find to like fall or like Thanksgiving.
Pumpkins, yeah, that's
and
true.
I've got my Canadian best ball championship hat for completely dominating it this year and winning. I don't know how many.
Yeah, you've been doing great.
Hopefully, I get the trophy at the end of the year.
So in best ball, don't stack the 0-8-1 Lions. That's what I did in the Detroit Red Wings division. I got cute. Oh, Detroit Lions, Detroit Red Wings. Give me that Hawkinson Swift stack, and then I started there. Like, you know what? Give me Goff. Give me everybody. That didn't work so well.
That's when we go. From always be stacking to maybe not always. Sometimes
not teams. Pick the good teams to stack with.
Exactly. All right. Kyle, as I play the gobble gobble, the turkey sound in the background, we got to end this because we got lineups to go tweak. What are you thankful for as we exit this? Whether it's football, family, Thanksgiving, anything you want, brother.
Well, I'm thankful for everyone listening, watching, all the humans that have ever showed me love and affection. But I do have a fantasy one that I wanted to get to. So one of the things that I did this offseason, I wrote an article at Full Press Coverage, the players to avoid. Got some contributions from my co-host Brad as well. We did a whole podcast episode on that actually. But the one thing I had mentioned is the last 3 years I've had a really good track record of avoid this running back at all costs. I do not want this guy. They're going in the 5th, 6th round. They really shouldn't be. I know, like this year again. Ty was going to be on to talk about the running back dead zone. I know that was something he talked about a lot in the offseason. But like to me, there was a couple of players in that dead zone that I was just like, okay, no, absolutely avoid. 2 years ago, Darrell Henderson. As a rookie, everyone was like, okay, Todd Gurley's knee. Oh, Darrell Henderson's the backup handcuff to have, and he was going in the 6th round. I don't even think he got 50 touches that year. Like it was a complete waste of a pick. And I kind of saw it coming a mile away. Like I remember Miles Sanders in redraft leagues was going like 2 rounds later, and it's like that didn't make any sense to me. Like Sanders is clearly going to probably, and I mean he was still splitting with Jordan Howard and blah blah blah, but it seemed like clearly I'd rather have Sanders in dynasty or redraft than Henderson. It was just made no sense on Henderson that year. So like that was seemingly obvious. 2020 it was Raheem Mostert. The 49ers, it's a committee, and I don't really want to invest in. I mean, Trey Sermon was right there too this year. Like 5th round 49ers running back, no thank you. I will always pass on those guys. And then this year, the one guy I really thought no was Chase Edmonds. Now, I can't remember if you were on for this, but I remember I think it was a Half Millie Billies episode you guys did. And in one of the drafts, Chase Edmonds went 312. I don't think I ever saw that extreme in that draft, but that was like, you guys, high stakes leagues, what you guys are showing. And he went 312. I thought that was just ridiculous. I think it was Theo and Shelley were on, and they just couldn't believe it either. I was shocked.
That's watching. That's a little nuts.
But even so, like I thought as a 6th round pick, he was overvalued. And I'm really thankful for James Conner coming in and doing so well. He was one of my most rostered running backs this year. I avoided Edmonds completely, thinking I'd rather get Conner sometimes 2-3 rounds later, and Conner just smashing. Even when Edmonds was healthy, Conner was out producing him. So I'm thankful for Conner for that, to make me look smart on that. So look out for next year to which running back I'm going to scream at the hills to avoid completely, and maybe you should as well. That's at least one thing I get right every year in fantasy, apparently.
Nice. And Kyle, you brought you got a lot right today. You brought tons of goodness. Guys, check out the goal line work. Check out Kyle at Senra Says. You find him on Going for Two and Full Press Fantasy as well. Kyle, we appreciate you. I'm thankful that you joined me. I'm thankful for anyone who watches our show, who tunes in. We try to put out, like you said, quality content. We try to get you guys the best guests, the best information. And I'm thankful for the guys that I do this with, whether it's having guests like yourself on and making new connections, and Dan and Theo and Andrew, what they bring to the table. Just love working with them. They're super sharp guys. They're smart guys. They're great with their time, but they're nice guys as well. So make sure you follow us, pound the subscribe, smash the like. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Get those W's this weekend. And that's it, guys. We'll check you guys later.